project we are working on for several years now. It's called Perverse Animals. Part of what we're doing is we're going to places to talk to people. Could be anyone. Usually we have contacts through a network of people we know, and they say like, okay, this is an interesting artist or an interesting musician or maybe a scientist or a writer. You should talk to this person if you want to know something about living in the city or driving in the city, or maybe have an interesting story about animals or cars. So we have a list. Then we have a list of people we want to talk to, and we contact them and say, okay, look, we're doing a project. This is very basic explanation. I mean, in real time, it goes mostly twisted, more twisted than this. But we say, okay, we want to ask you about what do you think about perverse animals. Do you know any perverse animals? And then, well, we did that in Dublin with this very little question, and well, of course, we got really the answers we got were very obvious answers, like yeah, human beings are the most perverse ones. So that for us was a reason to start twisting the reality a bit more. So, and now we're here in Tbilisi, and then first thing we noticed the very first few minutes when we're here is the driving style, the cars. So we definitely want to talk to some people about what they think about what's going on. How do you feel when you're not driving a car? How does it feel that you're, as a pedestrian, as someone on foot somewhere, you have less value than a car, because the car is really sort of pushing you away all the time. And I'd like to talk to people about that, see what kind of stories they come up with. We drove down with sorry, forgot your name. Nadja, sorry. And she already said, well, I'm used to it. How we sort of like handle situations in traffic, whereas I was going like, what you know, don't know it anymore. So yeah, I think there's going to be some interesting directions. Also, we would like to talk to people we meet and like here, and maybe some people are up for a short interview somewhere in the coming days. We're here till Sunday, yeah. The whole day Sunday we'll still be here, right? So we leave at Sunday night somewhere. So we're still we're available.
But just to be more clear,
yes,
what we do is a mixture of everything. So we want to be inspired on one hand. We use the material, we record everybody that we interview. We can use it for the finished piece, but we can also use it as inspiration. And also we are interested in being, how you say this? Afgeleid? Distracted, yeah.
Or diverse.
So we are interested in any kind of subject in the end, but it has to be a nice road there.
It's going to be explained to you with this next piece of text. Okay, we just it's
will
going to be
all become clear to you.
No, it won't. But
no, it won't. Won't or no?
No, it won't. That's good. You know, this first piece is called Forms of Denial. The How of the Perverse Animals Project. We engage real people whose stories turn slightly surreal because of the audio environment we place them in, or having their stories commented on by other stories, which all makes the obviousness a bit suspect, as if a grand scheme or brilliant script is at display here. We see fictional characters with strong, credible stories, which are more convincing than the real people talking sometimes about real thoughts and feelings. Well, that's the way it could be. Life following art, whereas the other way around is more at hand in general. We noticed that the so-called real characters, by calling them characters, we in a way also depersonalize them. And that happens usually in the wake of the interviews or right after. It becomes colored by our impressions. So the persons who become real characters will then become later on in the editing process often part of a light hallucinatic play of sound and text. And we have to deal with failed characters also. I hate to throw away materials. A good way of understanding our own creative and evolving process, we look at the librarian woman. Two, can we say, typical ordinary women who had no trouble at all talking to two strangers with strange questions, without ever wondering whether they had any authority in the matter to begin with. So why would we, that is all together, even bothered in talking to each other at all? Well, because they work at a library, because they are Irish, because they are willing to take time and look in the library if there's books dealing with the subjects we come up with. That's the professional librarian way. So they dig up some articles and books about animals and their strange ways, and having a nice chat about it. La-di-da. Monkey masturbate and monkey copulate. But then one of them told a personal story about a trip on a bus in Italy or Rome, which is the same, I think. And how it was good to always travel with an umbrella, is that what she said. And we watched the two of them, I mean the two librarian women, wandering off in her story, as you do watching two persons telling a story to each other. And for us, that scene was the valuable one from the encounter with them. Although we didn't really understand what the clue was. I mean, was she molested or just encountered rather offensively on the bus while being young and unexperienced, not really knowing what to think of it, but having the event listed on an example of perverse behavior. Watching the real turn into fiction. Imagine to transcribe this scene to be acted, actually, as with the fictional character Whoreboy. Whoreboy was born from a quote by William Burroughs. And we watch his story later on. We hear the soundtrack of his life in this typical style of confession, real-life drama, and emotion. We know as very well all. It doesn't matter if it's true, as long as it is entertaining. And then we are let in a room by a person who is going to get the other persons we want to speak. The mundane.
I've been a male prostitute all my life. I'm 53 now. Boys still come galore. It's because of my youthful appearance. Well, I still have a mohawk, wear Dr. Martens boots. I can still touch my toes if I bow, for the obvious reasons, or just because I feel like it. My leather jacket tells the whole story, man. It's what I am. It's what I represent. I'm a rebel, and I fuck for money. What's wrong with that? Most people do it for free. I charge a fee. I would say that's even better. It's been like that all my life. I don't do drugs. I never drink more than a pint a day. I do my exercises. I keep fit. just to be ready for you if you've got something in your pocket for me. Well, I read William Burroughs when I was 16. He said a punk was someone who takes it up the ass. Well, that appealed to me a lot. I was listening to GBH at the time. GBH was a great hardcore band. My favorite song was City Baby Attacked by Rats. Well, the memory lingers on, as they say. I started a career in singing. The band was called Gay Fascist Eat Shit, GFES. We released one 7-inch. It had only a B-side. We left the A-side blank. It was called Whore Boy. All our gigs were outrageous. I had to stop playing because we became too successful. And I had to choose between the band and the park. Well, I have to go now. I'm taking my dog for a walk. In Bushy Park, you know, he should have a good time too, you know. Well, just listen to this, people. This is the thing I did when I was young.
I show my dick to any old prick that may disgust me. I do it for money and a whole boy. I show my dick, dick, to any old prick may disgust me. I do it for money and a whole boy. And a whole boy. I'm a whole boy. I'm a whole boy. My flesh is good flesh, as long as still fresh. Enjoy the life, cut. My flesh is good flesh, as long as it's still fresh. Come and enjoy the life, cut. I'm a whore boy. I'm a whore boy. I'm a whore boy. I'm a whore boy. I'm young and nice, just as advice. I'm young and nice, just as advice. Just show your wallet and I'll lick your mullet. Just show your wallet and I'll lick your mullet. I'm a whore boy, whore boy, whore boy, whore boy, whore boy.
God, I remember recording this as if it were only last year. We'd been to see the Sex Pistols in the 100 Club and I thought, well, I'm prettier than that John Lydon boy and I can do the sneering just as well. We borrowed drums and a guitar, bought a couple of grams of soap and made a record in half an hour. No overdubs. Benny Rhodes was interested in managing us, but I was growing tired of the scene. And our guitarist disappeared off to Holland. Who knows what became of him?
few scrubby patches and several ponds. You stand somewhere at the side of the public, as it were, looking left or right, wondering which way to go, if you go at all. There are not many people there, except a few with a definite purpose. Walking the dog maybe, a jog or two. And we decide to sit down on the bench, not in a hurry to go anywhere yet. The bench is a good spot to get our recording gear out and do some recordings with several microphones. The long distance microphone reveal a busy pond somewhere out of sight. You can hear birds flapping in water, a child's voice and a mum talking to the child, ducks quacking.
He decides to look for gay dogs. It's a bit of an obsession for him. Somebody we interviewed as well on the trip was surprised about the suggestion that allegedly there was a park where gay dogs would meet. And this was the park.
I decide first to test my recording equipment on a pigeon who's nearby, walking around on its own. I'm not sure what it's after, so I walk up to him or her and start talking, or rather I politely ask the pigeon if I may ask it some questions. Whether it had perhaps some information about this park and its rumors and so forth. The bird obviously avoided any questions and started moving away from me in little half circles, always as if testing to see if that was the right way to go. If the large mammal with the unintelligible sounds responded this way or that, the pigeon would then turn and move away from its previous position and so on. The pigeon then flew away to land several feet away, and I decided to repeat the whole procedure until finally it burgered off completely.
He was still on the bench, now eating a sandwich he had improvised from some bread and cheese and a gherkin. Munching sounds kind of interfered with listening to the recording going on over the headphones, so he turned off the recorder and finished eating his sandwich. The park is uneventful and rather dull. Not much done in terms of garden architecture or landscaping. It looks like a coincidental park, with a bit of construction around a pool and some foot walks. Obviously everything is clearly low maintenance in design and structure. We quickly lose our sense of purpose or urgency and decide after an obligatory walk around to leave. I can't remember where we went after that. What is going on? I'm not the same person that I used to be.
I am not the same person that I used to be. You remember P? He hated our guts. Thought our entire project was nonsense and in no way art-worthy. Yet he plays an important role in it. The perfect, gloomy, self-doubting and cynical protagonist in a failed radio play with no clue or meaning or even purpose. He hated the obviousness of our project's main subject, the perverse animals. Or did he hate the obviousness of the answers people gave? So did we, or we thought. But on the other hand, there's nothing more fascinating listening to it than to have the obvious stated, namely that humans were the most perverse animals. Duh.
People know it if you're lost. Like dogs, they smell you out. Smell your fear of detection. Progress is the ability to disguise your weakness. To be able to live among the pack.
undetected, blending in. It's relatively easy most of the time, but sometimes you're caught. You notice there's some other code suddenly, a specific mixture of the people there doing a specific or non-specific set of tasks. And you might be the odd one out if you don't adapt fast enough.
If you're not, the shrieking starts. The pointing, like the invasion of the body snatchers, like a leaper in Ibiza. The pointing, like the invasion of the body snatchers.
What is something perverse? There's a few things I call perverse. Well, there are two sorts of pervertations. The appealing one and the appalling one. An example of appealing perversity: a beautiful young girl getting hit on her bare bottom by a billionaire. An example of appalling perversity: two old people having sex.
Well, sex is only allowed for beautiful people, you know, as far as doing it in public is concerned. Dogs can do it, but only because everybody likes the sight of them. And they don't look so naked.
I'm a taxidermist. I could tell you stories. I'm Dutch. I'm from Venray, Limburg. Dutch taxidermists are the best. It's because we have so much experience. It's a Dutch mentality, I guess. We like to clean up messes. We're neat and clean. We're eradicative as hell. Let's just call it what it is. Animals are walking, barking, howling pieces of junk. They might have ornamental functions or they might be good to eat, but they tend to make a dirty mess. Not being very neatly and all that, if they're alive, that is. Most of them, you can be sure, they will never learn. So what can be the good old taxidermy? Is it done by a perverse mind obsessed with death and destruction? Yes, that's me. But see it this way. I don't kill any of the animals myself. I only stuff animals. Anybody who tells you otherwise is a fucking liar. And in a way, I keep them alive, you know. Long after their intestines and all the other insides have been removed, long after their last brain cells have left the building, I preserve some of the character, keep the old regulator working. I'm not saying I'm Dr. Do-Good, I'm just saying the whole taxidermy thing is more than just stuffing skins. It's about survival, it's about philosophy, and it's about giving animals a home for eternity. It is the reconstruction of an animal, mainly using its skin, so what you see is what there is. Some say taxidermy is an art form, others say it's fake, it's a farce, it has nothing to do with anything serious. Well, for sure it's not biology. They might be right, but for God's sake, who cares? A good taxidermy isn't about the outside, it's about the inside. It's the inside that counts, man. I'm not a perverse mind or obsessed with death and destruction. I'm just an amateur. Which means somebody who loves what he does. Who does what he can do best. And I love the smell of dead bodies. It's so aromatic. It's a sweet scent that devours all other scents. To hunch over cadavers, there's nothing more real. By the way, have you seen my roadkill collection? It's great stuff. You know, I saved those animals from complete deterioration.
Hi. I'm one of the best dancers in the world. One of the best. Maybe I'm the best mover in the world. But I'm definitely in the top 10 of dancers as well. There's no real difference between what I do and the stuff that is called classical ballet. It's only that I think 10 to 100 steps ahead, while some Nureyev kinds of guy is probably just trying to stay put and going through all the motions. And what have you not, you know, right? You must have guessed, dance is in my blood. I don't need no fancy clothing or Wagner or Beethoven to keep me on my feet. My music is the real music, so that sounds that dreams are made of. Okay, as far for the Irish heritage and all that, being an outsider, I was better equipped than the usual Paddy that came from across the street to handle that shit. It's like this. You either treat it like that old Greek and Roman stuff, study more. It's good stuff to study because it's a sitting duck. It doesn't move. I've been dead for ages. Oh, there you go. Yup. Study some more and we'll be okay. You'll end up in some sleep university with a degree of PhD or whatever they call it. And you can start a family just by staring at old books. Hey, as for Ireland and its past and future, it's still happening. It's all around us. It's not over yet. It has just begun. I'm a mover, and I'm in the middle of a movement. There's no written laws about how heritage should sound or look like. Yes, we're talking about line dancing. Well, I give it a name. I give it a meaning. I make a bit of money. Who cares whether without me they would still be doing their pathetic, well, you know, in their crummy old pubs. With some limp old timer trying to stay on his feet and while, you know, like some little drunken shit. I was giving a wrecking old blow job on an drunken one with some whistle. Funny that you mentioned it. But I'm a great musician as well. It's the same with everybody I do. I'm just a bit faster. I'm thinking, acting, moving. It gives me a huge advantage to, well, you know, anybody who's involved in the arts, most of whom are talented and oh, boring wankers. Anyway, I'm sorry, but I'm a kind of direct kind of guy, you know. Yes. I'm just saying it as it is, and there's not that much competition for me, and unlike some people, I don't feel lonely at the top. I know you cannot say these things, but I say them anyway. It's just so great to be me. My little joke. Once I met this lady. She kind of spoke in tongues. I was still a carpenter back then. She said, "I see a great future lying ahead of you." I said, Yeah, bitch. Keep up the good work. I wasn't really listening properly.
That's the end.